Thank you, Vesla. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear council members, guests and friends. On behalf of my fellow co-chairs Carl Bildt and Norbert Röttgen, it gives me great pleasure to open this year's annual council meeting of the European Council on Foreign Relations. A warm welcome to you here in Berlin and to all of you joining us online. We are here in the Humboldt-Carré in Berlin, just next to the Gendarmenmarkt and ECFR's offices unter den Linden in what used to be eine historische Kassenhalle. And frankly, a large banking hall strikes me as an appropriate venue, considering that on this very day, 30 years ago, 12 heads of state and government met in Maastricht to agree upon the European common currency, to a large extent as response to the fall of the Berlin Wall. On the day when the negotiations were launched, this country's biggest tabloid ran the following headline: "The End of the D-Mark." And in Maastricht, in the town square, just to give you a flavor of the mood, Commission President Jacques Delors gave a speech where he said, I quote, "Federalism is a guideline, not a pornographic word. You can speak it out loud," quote unquote. As we all know now, the Maastricht Treaty was a starting point of a new era of European integration with a common currency, visions of a common foreign and security policy, European defense, at that time referred to as the Western European Union, and the first initial attempts to move into the area of justice and home affairs. After the decision to deepen integration, member states embarked upon widening and met in my hometown to agree upon the Copenhagen criteria, which opened the way for enlargement. But today, we obviously also know that Maastricht started what has been called the game of exceptions, of opt-outs and opt-ins. Just take Britain and my own country, Denmark. Delors, as you may remember, was not happy with the treaty. He would have preferred to have stuck to the economic part of it, leaving the rest to later. So he described it as a beautiful racing car with a deux chevaux engine. And since then, we have been working on that engine, and we meet here in Berlin not only on the 30th anniversary of the Maastricht Summit, but also at the end of yet another era. Because just yesterday, one of the key mechanics of the last 16 years retired. And here I'm obviously referring to Chancellor Angela Merkel and her 107 EU summits. So I guess we now all have to learn a new word, Altkanzlerin. A Europe without Merkel has among some led to concern, anxiety. Just take the last summit where Charles Michel said that an EU summit without Merkel was like Paris without the Eiffel Tower, and Rome without the Vatican. Personally, I still prefer the ECFR version. European summits without Merkel will feel like Agatha Christie's detective stories without Miss Mabel. But the end of Merkelism, with its pragmatic mottling through, is also an opportunity to open the bonnet and take a close look at the old engine. Indeed, many of the issues from Maastricht are still with us. What kind of economic and monetary union do we need? Is a green stability and growth pact and a permanent recovery fund in the cards? What about CFSP and defense? Now in the 2021 version, referred to as strategic sovereignty and autonomy, and not to forget the strategic compass. How do we deal with our external borders and migration? What about federalism, the F word from Maastricht? Judging from the German coalition agreement, it is no longer a pornographic word, at least not here in Berlin. But obviously there are also new issues, such as climate change, European Chips Act, the never-ending story of COVID, an ambitious China, a United States which is back but could soon leave us again, challenges of rule of law, just to mention a few that are now on the agenda. As a matter of fact, we live in a time where I'm tempted to quote Lenin: there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen, quote unquote. Maybe that's because we are entering not just a new era, but also the age of unpeace. So the timing of this HCM could hardly be better. there's so much to discuss, fine-tune and change, and then I haven't even mentioned the French presidential elections. So Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, council members, guests and friends, this event would not have been possible without the support from our extraordinary partners, so a big thank you to you, Stiftung Mercator, the European Climate Foundation, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Germany, and the Robert Bosch Stiftung. Thank you for allowing us to meet today and for supporting ECFR's mission to provide a safe meeting space for decision makers, activists, and influencers to shape Europe's foreign policy. I will also take the opportunity of thanking the ECFR team, which has worked day and night and studied COVID rules all over Europe at the same time as they've set up this program for us. If I had the power, I would phone up the German Bundeswehr and ask its staff band to perform a special version of last week's Zapfenstreich for Chancellor Merkel. Über euch soll es rote Rosen regnen. Now that we are in the Humboldt carré, let me end by quoting, you guessed it, Alexander Humboldt, obviously, who once said, "The most dangerous worldviews are the worldviews of those who have never viewed the world," quote unquote. And that message not only strikes me as spot on, but also as the perfect introduction to our first speaker, co-founder and director of ECFR, Mark Leonard. Because in order to view the world, you need an atlas. And that is exactly what Mark and his colleagues have developed, the Power Atlas of ECFR. Indeed, you may have seen the hashtag #TellMeAtlas on Twitter the last couple of days. So now I wish you all a fruitful and stimulating ATM, and I leave you with a new hashtag, #TellUsMark. The floor is yours.